On a warm November day back in 2015, I was running the Authentic Marathon in my hometown of Athens, Greece. I had just finished mile 6, and if you know anything about this marathon, the next 14 miles are all on a gradual incline, making it one of the toughest marathons on in the books. And that's because of the location of it, the topography, the number of people that are there. I was a little overwhelmed. I'm not going to lie. I was overwhelmed because I was trying not to pay attention to people running faster than me. I was trying to think of how I was breathing and how I was feeling, but this was my very first marathon, and it was not an easy one. However, I had to think about this is the moment I had been working for and I had been looking for in a lifetime. So, in order to explain why that was such an important moment, when I was 12, I had to have a very serious orthopedic back surgery. And when I left Northwick Park Hospital, I had the surgery done in England, even though I am Greek. My mother was a British citizen. I, at the time, was told that you're not going to be very active in your life. You definitely can't do long distance running. And I proved them wrong. And there I was. I thought I will do one marathon and I will do the authentic, original Athens Marathon. And I was living that. And I was in that experience. I was experiencing part of my history, my country's heritage. That is such an iconic race. But despite all of that, I was trying to be in the moment. I was trying to remind myself how long I had come, how far I had come. And I was trying to savor the moment with all of my senses. What is savoring and why do we need to be reminded of it? As Loyola University Dr. Fred Bryant says, savoring is being mindfully engaged and aware of our feelings during positive events. Now, since we are all nearing the end of the year, I'm recording this towards the last few days in November. We may be a little bit worn out, a little bit run down, and it's important to think about how can we look back? How can we savor the positive moments and take this concept to the next level, help us in everything that we do, help us level up what we do. So during the marathon, my inclination was to tune out all of the difficult things. It was November and it was warm in Greece at the time. I had trained in much colder temperatures here, and I had to really focus on being in the moment. Instead, I reminded myself to savor the experience and to make the most out of it. Dr. Bryant, in his book, he has a book called Savoring, a New Model of Positive Experience. And he and his co-author, Dr. Joseph Veroff, emphasize the savoring. Savoring is a trained skill. This is why I wrote this newsletter and I'm recording this YouTube, because all of you hearing this and following this need to know that this is something you can work to improve if you are reminded of it and if you make a specific effort towards it. So we should take in everything that we can and make an effort to experience the positive moments. We're so much on the go, go, go. And sometimes we don't take time to, as we say in the United States, smell the roses or savor the moments. So, in the next few minutes, I'll tell you of 4 ways that you can savor everything that you do in your everyday work life specifically. The first one is to build savor triggers. So, what do I mean by this? In order, when our days are quick and fast going and we can get distracted or a little bit overwhelmed, we should remind ourselves of the experiences that have brought us this joy, that have been positive. Maybe it's a picture of a place that you've visited that you part of your heart is there, or maybe it's the scent of a flower, or maybe it's time to let a few rays of sun hit your face when you go outside and breathe the fresh air, or it's the scent or the smell of a home cooked meal. Cooking is my love language. Food is important, and that brings a lot of calmness to me. So anything that helps us slow down, tune into our senses, anything that help us focus on something that's pleasant and positive. So build that into your busy day. The next suggestion is to save the savor. In his book, Dr. Bryan talks about a study where members of the study, the experiment was to savor or was to hold back the pleasure of chocolate. So they gave the control group chocolate; they could eat it all they wanted, and they gave a certain group, the test group, the chocolate that they savored. They had to keep it. I think it was at the end of the week. So that group noted that they enjoyed the experience of having chocolate all the time. Is it true that if we hold back a little bit on something that positive, we can experience it and enjoy it and have more pleasure from it? The answer, I think, in Dr. Bryant's work is that yes. So try this simple experiment with yourself. Look at your schedule when you have a hard week, a hard meeting, and schedule something that's pleasurable for you. Is it a hot bath, or is it a nice hike outside? Is it being, you see, there's a lot of outdoor references that all does us all really good. Is it playing with kids? If you have kids around, when our kids were little, if I could let myself be engaged and in the moment, it was very stress relieving to see the world through their eyes. Maybe for you, it's time on your yoga mat, or again, it's time with people that you love and you cherish. So savor and plan for that. Maybe save it a little back or put the triggers around you. The third thought is to compare downward and compare upward. Let me explain this a little more. In the struggle of that hot race, the marathon, it was easy to look around me and see other people that were doing better than me. And if I was comparing myself upward, Dr. Bryan calls that an upward hedonic comparison, or a downward one. If I was comparing myself upward, I would say, oh, they're going faster than me, or they are trained more than me, or they are have more endurance than I do. That didn't work for me to do that during that event. What does work, though, if you do this in the workplace, you see someone that is a really good public speaker, or has coding skills like no other, or has the ability to manage a project really well. If you pay close attention and upwardly compare, that is beneficial for you specifically in order to be able to improve your skills, or have a way to aspire to do that. The downward hedonic comparison would not be one where I would look to others and say, oh, they're doing worse than me. I would downward compare to myself. Now, back to, I told you the story of being, having had the orthopedic spinal surgery. I was initially in a striker bed. I was either on my stomach or on my back for 1 month. And then I was in a body cast, again, very, very limiting. And even though every one of those steps up those 14 miles were difficult and hot, I kept thinking, look at what I get to do. I was downward comparing. I was saying, look at how this feels. And oh my gosh, I never would think I could do that comparing to that many years ago. So looking back and comparing to what you can do now is part of that savoring, and it's part of that comparison that can give you the opportunity to feel that. So it's okay sometimes, and many of you I know, especially on LinkedIn, you tell me the background and the story of what has brought you to where you are now. It's okay to pause and say, I did this, or I am doing this. This is amazing. So give yourself that praise. Take the time to savor the moment, appreciate it. Finally, savor and appreciate. This has more to do with celebrating with people around you. Again, fast pace, we don't take the time to say, let's celebrate the spring season, the fall season, celebrate the fact that we're together, celebrate that we've made an accomplishment. So it's intentional appreciation. And I also reflect to a book that the Chip and Dan Heath, the Heath brothers, have written called The Power of Moments. I've learned a lot from them, and I've learned to stop and pause and celebrate those life events, whether they're in the workplace or they're personal. So for me, it's a great reminder that taking the time to celebrate and share with others is important, and it's a savoring experience. For me, this whole thing started with listening to Hidden Brain. I'm a super fan of Shankar Vedantam's Hidden Brain, and that's where I heard Dr. Bryant talk about the art of savoring. He actually told a story that involved an injury, a back injury that he had that was similar to mine. So that was quintessential, but I consider myself very lucky to have crossed paths with his words and have read his book. What he says is that savoring is not an outcome, it's a process. So I invite you all to play into the process, to plan into the process, and to give yourself an opportunity to savor the moments. If you're watching this, in the comments, we will put a LinkedIn Live recording that my friend and colleague and LinkedIn fellow instructor, Dr. Gemma Lee Roberts, we're going to connect in the LinkedIn Live and talk more about the concept. Now, she has a hub that is called Mindset Matters that help you excel in anything that you do that relates to positive and productive mindset. And she's a whiz at all of this. She's the person I thought of in being able to share some of this and some ideas. So we'll learn more about this. We'll put that in the podcast, in the comments, and we'll also put the link to the podcast for the Hidden Brain episode where this started all of this. So as I close, I tell you a big thank you for listening and following along. We just completed the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States. I hope that your table was surrounded by people that you love. And I also thank you so much for following along. And I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if I can share more information. Take care. Till next time. All right, Shelby. I hope this worked. I'm going to shut it down and download it later. Take care.